My girlfriend dumped me after 4 years because I was not good enough. Now I run the startup that wrecked her husband's career, and she wants me back. Just to paint the full picture, I am a 28-year-old guy who used to be a software engineer and eventually became a startup founder. This whole story kicked off around 4 years ago, though the real chaos only reached its peak recently. I always had a gut feeling that Sienna's family, she is 27 years old, did not think much of me. I was not oblivious.al. We first crossed paths in college. She was enrolled in a business management program at a prestigious private university, while I was there on a scholarship, studying computer science. My diet mostly consisted of instant noodles and cheap energy drinks as I poured everything into a tech startup I believed could be something big. Our story started with a cliché moment. She accidentally dumped coffee all over my laptop in the library. Instead of flipping out, I cracked some awkward joke. That single moment somehow turned into a 4-year relationship I genuinely thought was something real. They never had to say anything directly. That was not their style. The Elises, Sienna's family, were polished and proper, but their body language, the forced smiles, and the way they always steered conversations toward high-powered men in their social circle whenever I was around, it was all crystal clear. Early on in the relationship, her mother would introduce me to people as just a classmate of Sienna's. A classmate. Even after we had been together for 2 years, it stung more than I wanted to admit. At the beginning, I truly believed Sienna was different. I thought she saw beyond their world of inherited wealth, country club rules, and obsession with appearances. She would joke about how uptight her parents were and roll her eyes whenever their snobby gossip came up. We used to curl up in my tiny, leaky apartment, where the bathroom ceiling drip never got fixed, eating takeout on my sagging futon and watching old shows on my slow, beat-up laptop. She used to tell me that none of the money or prestige mattered, that her feelings for me had nothing to do with what I earned. But looking back now, it clearly mattered more than I realized. Our place was far from glamorous, a third-floor unit in a rough neighborhood, where the walls were thin enough to hear neighbors arguing or being way too loud at 1 a.m. But even with all that, it felt like home. We had decorated the place with string lights, posters, and these tiny potted succulents Sienna kept buying, even though I was always the one who ended up watering them. I had this old orange tabby cat named Machi, a rescue, who knocked stuff off every surface but still managed to sleep right between us every night. Sienna always said she preferred dogs, but I caught her whispering sweet nonsense to Machi when she thought I was not paying attention. Things really started unraveling after one dinner at her parents' estate. It was supposed to be a relaxed family get-together. Instead, it turned into one of those over-the-top evenings where people casually wore wristwatches that cost more than my entire car, which, to be fair, was not saying much. I was driving a beat-up 2007 Toyota Corolla with a busted bumper and a dashboard light that had been blinking at me for months. They were sipping wine that probably came with its own insurance policy while swapping stories about spontaneous weekends in the Napa Valley or Vale, like it was as common as my weekly laundry trip. Sienna had asked me to come, saying her parents wanted to connect with me more. I should have sensed something was off when she told me to wear a blazer. The only one I owned was from my cousin's wedding, and it was a bit snug now thanks to late-night stress snacking. Still, I squeezed into it and even borrowed a decent pair of shoes from a friend to try and look the part. As soon as I walked in, it was obvious this was not just family. Her father's business partners were there, along with their well-groomed sons, guys who were already crushing it in industries like finance and law. They had Ivy League degrees, resumes packed with elite internships, and fathers who could casually text people in government. The whole room felt like a LinkedIn profile that had come to life. They were trading stories about investment returns and ski trips in Europe while I was still trying to get my startup off the ground, barely seeing daylight and rewarding myself with a burrito bowl when things were going well, always with guacamole. Because sometimes you have to treat yourself. I definitely did not have much to add when the topic turned to second homes in the mountains or vacationing on private beaches. Before long, the jab started, hidden behind smiles and polite tone. Sienna's father casually asked if I was still tinkering with that little tech idea of mine, while slowly spinning a drink in a fancy glass that probably cost more than I wanted to know. I told him it was a startup. My tone was calm, though it took some effort. I said we were in the early stages, but things were moving forward. I left out the part where our last investor meeting had been a total disaster, or that my co-founder and I had been working ourselves to the bone, clocking in more than 80 hours a week just to fix critical bugs in our prototype. Then one of her father's friends chimed in with a chuckle. A guy who looked like a magazine cover model, complete with perfect teeth and somehow sporting a tan in the middle of winter. He made a comment about how unpredictable the tech world had become and suggested that having a backup plan might be a smart move. He said it like he was doing me a favor, like he was handing me sage advice, but it dripped with arrogance. I glanced at Sienna, hoping she might say something. Normally, she would step in and talk about how dedicated I was, or how much faith she had in the work I was doing. But not this time. She just kept sipping her wine, her eyes locked on the massive floral arrangement in front of her like it held all the secrets of the universe. Then came Damon. Sienna's mom introduced him like royalty returning from exile. She lit up as she bragged that Damon had just become a junior partner at Bennett and Rowe, and she nearly pushed him into Sienna's seat. He was a corporate lawyer with degrees from Princeton and Yale. Sharp, polished, and apparently everything her parents had ever dreamed of. It sounded less like a conversation and more like she was reciting his resume. For some reason, Mrs. Ellis was very determined that he sit beside Sienna. She kept saying they had so much in common, while I sat across from them, feeling like an outsider watching my own relationship unfold from a distance. The entire evening felt like a slow, calculated humiliation. Every topic at the table revolved around security, career paths, upward mobility, proven success. Damon shared how he had just received a generous bonus. Who even brings that up? He talked about his new condo in a trendy part of town and his 5-year plan to become a full partner. I had nothing like that to share. Anytime I opened my mouth, I would get a few polite nods before the topic shifted to something else entirely. It dawned on me that this was not a dinner. It was a comparison. They were parading someone in front of Sienna who represented everything I was not. Someone who already had the polished life. Someone who was not chasing a dream, but already living one. They wanted her to see what life could look like with a man like Damon. And by contrast, what it would keep looking like with someone like me. I got through the evening, barely, but it was not the subtle digs that hurt the most. It was Sienna herself. She never once defended me. Not a single word. Instead, she smiled at Damon's unfunny jokes, asked him about his work like it actually fascinated her, and leaned in when he spoke about law school. I could not remember her ever reacting like that when I talked about the app we were building. Later that night, when we returned to my place, something felt different. She complained about the elevator again, even though it had been broken for months. She made a remark about how cramped the bathroom was. She gave Machi a disapproving look when he jumped onto the bed, a thing that never used to bother her. A week after that, she gave me the speech. She showed up after work, still dressed in her office clothes from her marketing job at a company her dad's friend ran. No interview required, but that was another story. She sat down at our little IKEA dining table, the same one we had put together ourselves, laughing and drinking cheap wine while trying to decode the instructions. The same table where we had shared late-night meals, silly games, and real talks about the future. She looked at me with this serious expression and said she loved me, but she needed something more stable. Every word sounded rehearsed, like she had practiced it in her bathroom mirror over and over. She said she could not keep waiting for me to figure things out, that her family had helped her see she needed someone who was already established. I said what we both knew she was thinking. Someone like Damon. She did not even pretend to be surprised, just gave a slow nod, keeping her gaze on the fancy watch her parents had gifted her the year before. She claimed it was not just about the money, but we both knew that was not true. It was about predictability, about having a future that came with a blueprint and a guarantee. I could have argued, could have promised her I would get a normal job, show her a new version of me, one that would finally fit in with her family's perfect picture. But I felt something break inside. I simply nodded and said that it was fine. That was all. She looked caught off guard, almost like she had been expecting a meltdown. Tears. Maybe a desperate plea, but I had nothing left to give. She asked if that was really all I had to say. I stared at her and thought about how pointless it was to try. Would anything I said change what she had already decided? We both knew the answer. 2 days later, her new relationship went public. Not even a full week had passed, and she was posting pictures with Damon, dressed in coordinated outfits at some luxury resort in the Hamptons. His arm was around her waist, and she was grinning like nothing in the world could touch her. The caption read, "Found my forever." Meanwhile, I was still sleeping on the same side of the bed we used to share, still pulling strands of her hair out of the drain, still picking up her favorite cereal at the store without realizing why. I wish I could say I bounced back fast, that I used the pain to fuel my success and transformed into a tech genius overnight. That would sound nice, like the ending of an inspiring movie. But the truth is, I fell apart. And I fell hard. About a month after Sienna and I split, everything I had been building came crashing down. Our prototype failed during a crucial demo, and that was all it took for our investors to pull out. Without their backing, the company collapsed. I lost my apartment not long after. Rent was no longer manageable unless I drained what little savings I had left. And as for my confidence, it was in pieces. I ended up moving in with Trevor, one of my closest friends since freshman year. He never really got what I saw in Sienna, but he always had my back. His apartment was even more cramped than mine had been, but he cleared half a closet, handed me a spare key, and welcomed both me and Machi like it was no big deal. That is what real friendship looks like. I started applying for anything that could help me stay afloat while watching Sienna's new dream life play out across social media. Yeah, I know. I should have blocked her, deleted the apps, done the whole clean break thing. But something about heartbreak has a way of pulling you toward pain, even when you know it is going to hurt. There she was, jet-setting to places I had only seen in movie trailers, eating at restaurants where the prices are not even listed, getting gifted items that probably cost more than my bank balance. Every post felt like a direct shot. Like she was saying, this is what I always deserved. And you were never enough. And the part that hit the hardest? Her family was not wrong. After all those years of grinding, I still had nothing to show. Damon, with his tailored suits and predictable life path, was everything I was not. He had it all handed to him, and I was still chasing shadows. My lowest moment came when I bumped into them, Sienna and Damon, at a cafe downtown. I was there to grab an Uber Eats order. That was my job now, delivering food just to scrape by. I was spending hours in restaurants I once ate in, now hoping for tips and trying to ignore the looks. My car's air conditioning had given out weeks ago. My shirt was soaked. My phone was on its last few percent, and I had already been working for 10 hours straight. They were seated outside, laughing together, hands intertwined, looking like they had stepped out of a luxury lifestyle ad. She had a new haircut, elegant, trendy, the kind you definitely do not get from a discount chain. He wore sunglasses that probably cost more than my whole wardrobe. She noticed me. Her laugh paused. We locked eyes. And for just a second, I thought I saw something flicker, maybe regret, maybe guilt. But it passed. What followed was that blank, polite smile you give a delivery guy or someone you vaguely remember from somewhere. I was just a background character in her life now. Something snapped inside me in that moment. That was the day I decided I would no longer be anyone's pity story. I returned to Trevor's place, erased every app from my phone, and made a promise to myself. No more feeling sorry. No more watching someone else live my dream. No more wasting time. I cut everything out. Social feeds, distractions, excuses. That version of me was gone. From that point forward, I was rebuilding. I barely slept for hours a night at most. I picked up 2 jobs, Uber Eats by day and overnight stocking at a grocery store. Every other hour went into resurrecting my business from the ground up. But I took a different approach this time. No more chasing investors with flashy slides and unfinished products. I focused on building something real, something useful. I bootstrapped. I planned smarter. I moved slower, but with intention. I stopped putting my trust in just anyone. My circle tightened to only the people I knew would show up, Trevor and a couple others who had never flinched when things got hard. I worked in silence, kept my head down, and stopped wasting energy on people who only wanted to complain about life. Trevor was incredible through it all. He kept me going. He would bring me coffee when I was too deep into a late-night coding session to remember food. He made sure I ate actual meals, not just protein bars. He never once complained about the mess I turned his living room into. He even pulled some strings at his own job to connect me with folks who helped me land my first real enterprise clients. Honestly, he deserves his own spotlight, and trust me, he got it. He is thriving now, doing what he loves, and he just bought his first home. For the next 2 years, I vanished from Sienna's world completely. I did not keep tabs on her anymore. I had no idea who she was with or what her life looked like. And for the first time, I did not care. While she was settling into a comfortable life with Damon, I was fighting for something that mattered. My new business idea actually came from the lessons I learned during my failure. I stopped dreaming about creating flashy apps for the masses and shifted into legal tech, specifically using AI to scan and review contracts. What used to take entry-level lawyers hours, our tool could do in seconds. It was not glamorous. It would never trend on social media. But it solved a real problem, one I had dealt with personally when I tried to navigate legal papers for my old startup. Then everything changed. We found the right niche. Our product landed in the hands of the right people. One great review from a respected client led to an article in an industry magazine. That snowballed. Clients began reaching out to us. Investors started calling me instead of the other way around. And suddenly, the company they had once mocked was going toe-to-toe with firms like Damon's. 2 years. That is how long it took. 2 years of long nights, grinding through doubt, setbacks, and near burnout. There were moments I almost quit. Times I wondered if Sienna's family had been right about me all along. But I never stopped. Now, I had a solid team beside me. People who believed in what we were building. They had become more than colleagues, they were family. We had our own traditions. Friday beers on the rooftop. Laughing over the all-nighters. Celebrating the ridiculous bugs we somehow fixed with duct tape and caffeine. And then, just like that, it all started coming together. The company was not just surviving anymore. It was growing. Fast. We signed one of the top law firms in the country. That opened the door to more partnerships, more deals, and more investor interest. Soon after, we were not just national, we were global. Expanding into Europe. Opening offices in London. Then Sydney. But the real plot twist? The biggest disruption my company caused ended up hitting right where Damon worked, financial law tech. Our AI tools were automating the kinds of tedious tasks that junior lawyers used to cut their teeth on, the very same tasks Damon built his career doing. That meant our software was directly threatening the stability of his firm. And the best part? He had no idea I was the one behind it. The first time I saw Sienna again, it was by pure chance. I had been invited to an exclusive industry event. Not as some attendee milling around the edges, but as a headline speaker. Just a year earlier, I could not have even afforded to get in the door. Now, I was standing on the main stage, explaining how our technology was changing the legal world. After my talk, while shaking hands and posing for photos in a suit that actually fit me properly, I caught a glimpse of her parents across the ballroom. They looked different this time. The arrogance was gone. The judgment had faded. They recognized me instantly. Her mother froze mid-sip, her glass hovering in the air. Her eyes wide. Her father, who once smirked while putting me down at his dinner table, just gave me a slow, quiet nod. The kind of nod people give when they finally see you. Then I saw her. Sienna stood off to the side, completely still, eyes locked on me like she was staring at something unreal. She still looked beautiful, but different. Her face no longer carried that effortless confidence she had once flaunted. She never walked over. Neither did I. But I noticed the shift in her face, from shock to recognition to something deeper. It looked a lot like regret. From that night on, everything seemed to go downhill for her and Damon. Word eventually got back to me through friends we had in common. Turns out Damon was exactly who I thought he was, an image-obsessed man who wanted a partner that made him look good, not someone he could actually connect with. In the beginning, Sienna had loved the lifestyle. The constant travel. The expensive meals. The validation that came with it all. But once the glamour wore off, the cracks started showing. Damon was never home. Always working, or off somewhere networking, which, apparently, included long nights with women from his firm. He handled all the finances, leaving Sienna completely dependent. He decided how she dressed, how she acted in public, and who she could or could not be seen with. And the worst part? Her parents backed him every time. She was no longer the shining jewel. Damon had become the one they placed all their bets on. She had given up everything for the illusion of safety. And now she was stuck, wearing golden handcuffs. Then, out of nowhere, I received an invitation from her father. A personal message asking me to attend a private business event, one of those behind-closed-doors networking functions where the drinks are aged longer than most careers and the deals can change industries. Years earlier, they would have laughed at the idea of inviting me. Now, they needed me in the room. I agreed to show up. Not because I wanted approval from them, but because I understood exactly what was going on. I was winning, and they wanted a piece of the victory. I arrived fashionably late, because I could. And there they were, Sienna and Damon, standing near the center of the room. Damon looked different. There was tension in his shoulders. He kept checking his phone, looking like someone who was trying to keep it together. I already knew his firm had been struggling. Our platform had taken a major bite out of their client base. The same tasks they used to charge thousands for were now being completed by our software in minutes and for far less. He probably still had not figured out that I was the reason. But Sienna? She knew. When our eyes met, I saw it again. That same look from the last event, only this time it hit harder. There was no hiding it. She regretted everything. About a week later, she reached out. Her name did not show up. I had erased her number a long time ago, but the message came through anyway. She said it had been a long time, that she was wondering if we could catch up. Just talk. I left it on read. The next day, she sent another. She wrote that things had ended badly, but she missed our conversations. That she had been thinking about me. I ignored that too. Then she made a bold move. She came to my office. It was late in the evening, close to 8. Most of the team had already gone home, and I was still wrapping up a few emails when the receptionist buzzed my line. "There is a woman here asking to see you. She says it is urgent." I did not need to ask who it was. For a moment, I thought about sending her away. But then it hit me. This was the moment I had been waiting for. So I told them to let her in. She walked through the doors slowly, her eyes scanning the office. Everything about it was the opposite of the tiny apartment we used to share. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Clean, modern decor. Success in every corner. And she looked nothing like the woman I remembered. Her confidence was gone. The air of entitlement had faded. She looked nervous. Unsure. She gave a soft, almost uncertain smile and quietly said it had been a while. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, not saying a word. Just watching her try to hold herself together. She paused, took a breath, and then admitted it. She had been wrong. About everything. She told me she had listened to the wrong people. That she gave up something real for something that turned out to be fake. She was hoping for some kind of reaction. Anything. Her eyes scanned mine, searching for a hint of connection. She said she missed me. Missed what we had. I tilted my head slightly and repeated the word. Us? She gave a quick nod, eyes flickering with a trace of hope. She admitted she had hurt me, but wondered if maybe we could start fresh. I studied her for a moment, then let out a laugh. It was not bitter, not angry, just amused. Start over, I repeated, shaking my head slowly. I reminded her that things ended the moment she chose comfort and status over loyalty and love. She flinched, but I was not finished. I told her she had no interest in me when I had nothing. No belief in me while I was struggling. But now that I had made it, now that the hard work had paid off, suddenly she wanted to come back? Her expression collapsed. I stood up and fastened my tailored suit jacket. The same kind of suit Damon probably used to wear. Only this time, mine came with earned respect. I told her the truth. I no longer thought about her. I did not miss her. And I certainly did not need her. Then, right on cue, the office door opened. My girlfriend walked in. A brilliant, talented product designer I had met at a tech conference. She was one of the first people to believe in my company when we were still working out of Trevor's apartment. She was beautiful, sharp, everything Sienna was not, and then some. Sienna's face turned pale. I looked over to my girlfriend, gave her a soft smile, then turned back to Sienna. I told her that I had found someone truly in my league, and it just was not her. Then I calmly walked her to the door and closed it behind her. But that moment was only the beginning of what came next. Not long after, the whispers began. Damon's firm was falling apart. Our legal AI tools were swallowing up their client base at lightning speed. Firms were leaving traditional methods behind and switching to us. We were faster, cheaper, more efficient, doing in seconds what they used to bill hours for. Damon's firm was bleeding, and they were scrambling. The partners were panicking instead of pivoting. I heard from industry friends that Damon was losing it behind the scenes, pulling exhausting hours, screaming at his staff, blaming everyone but himself. Funding started to dry up. Investors saw his firm as outdated, something from a different era, struggling to survive in a space it no longer owned. And the twist? Damon still had not connected the dots. He had no idea I was the one dismantling everything he had built. While Damon's career spiraled, Sienna's parents were watching their own reputation slip. These were the same people who once called me a failure, who looked down on me like I was nothing. Now, the same man they had dismissed was wealthier, more influential, and more respected than the entire circle they tried to impress. Suddenly, they wanted to rewrite history. It began with a polite email from her mother. Congratulations on the success. Very impressed. Then her father name-dropped me in an interview, referring to me as one of the brightest minds in business today. Next came another invitation, another elite event, dressed up as a networking opportunity. I declined every one. Then the unexpected happened. Sienna's father called me himself. I picked up, curious more than anything. His tone was warm, Familiar. Like there had never been bad blood between us. He rambled for a bit. Talked about partnerships. About shared interests. Tried to paint the past as water under the bridge. Then, after a pause, he got to the real reason he called. He said Sienna had made a mistake. That things had been hard for her. That maybe, just maybe, if we could sit down and... I hung up. No apology. No accountability. Just a transparent attempt at saving face. That was the last time I took any of their calls. Then came the moment Damon finally figured it out. I was speaking at a major business summit, on a panel about AI's impact on the legal industry. One of the CEOs in the room mentioned my company by name, saying we were reshaping the game completely, that even the legacy firms were struggling to keep up. The camera cut to the audience, and there he was, Damon. His face went pale. His expression froze in that split second between denial and realization. He finally got it. I was not just some chapter in his girlfriend's past. I was the reason his empire was collapsing. That same night, I got a message from someone inside his firm. Dude, Damon just completely lost it during a meeting. You need to hear what happened. Apparently, one of his own partners brought up our company as an example of what they needed to start modeling. Said it with full seriousness. Damon exploded, slammed the table, shouted, called me a fraud, claimed we would fall apart any minute. But nobody else agreed with him. They just watched, quiet, embarrassed. They were beginning to see what I had already known. Damon was not who he thought he was. And as tempting as it was to stop there, I knew I was not done yet. I wanted to close this chapter with no loose ends. A few months down the line, my company reached its biggest milestone yet. We were acquiring a smaller, but highly respected legal firm, one that just so happened to be one of Damon's direct competitors. But this move was more than just business. It was the final play. Checkmate. Once the acquisition went through, we absorbed several of Damon's top clients. Some came to us willingly. Others followed once they saw the writing on the wall. And just like that, his firm buckled. Within half a year, they were forced into a merger with a larger company. Damon lost his title. He was no longer a partner, no longer a decision-maker. He had become just another employee, most likely stuck doing the same entry-level work he once used to brag about leaving behind. As for Sienna, she had married the man she believed would guarantee her stability. And now that man's career had fallen apart. She had traded in love for security. And in the end, she got neither. And me? I had everything I needed. Not just success. Not just recognition. I had rebuilt myself from the ashes. I had created something real. Something lasting. And I had found peace on my terms. I saw Sienna one final time. We crossed paths at an airport lounge, of all places. I was waiting for my flight to Tokyo, part of our expansion into Asia, when I noticed her sitting alone, scrolling through her phone. No designer labels. No flashy jewelry. She looked tired. A little worn out. Like life had taken something from her and never gave it back. She looked up. Saw me. For a brief second, I watched hope flash behind her eyes. She stood, like she was about to speak. I gave a small shake of my head. Then I turned and walked toward my gate, boarded my first-class seat, and never looked back. The truth is, I never had to bring her down. She managed that on her own. She chose prestige over love, appearances over depth. And when all the luxury faded, she was left with a man unraveling under pressure. Damon, the one her parents had once praised as perfect, was now just another burned-out lawyer fighting to stay relevant. The image they had all clung to was gone. And my life? It was everything I had dreamed of. The company had become an industry leader. I was surrounded by people who truly had my back. I was in a relationship with someone who had seen me at my lowest and still believed in what I could become. I never responded to Sienna's last few messages. Never replied to her half-hearted attempts to reconnect. Because, in the end, the best revenge was not tearing her down. It was rising without her. Oh, and for those who are curious, yes, I am still with my incredible girlfriend. It has been over a year and a half, and we're stronger than ever. Machi, my rescue cat? He's living his best life, curled up on our office couch, judging everyone who walks in. And yes, the company is still growing, and we are just getting started. Sometimes, life really does feel like a movie. Only this time. I wrote the ending. Thanks for sticking around till the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. And let me know in the comments, do you think you made the right choice in the end? Would you have handled it differently? I'll be reading what you have to say.